The heading Introduction to the Heroes of the Old Testament invites us to explore a fascinating and often overlooked aspect of biblical literature. This concept refers to the individuals in the Old Testament who performed acts of bravery, leadership, and faith, often under formidable circumstances. These figures, while not always as famed as Noah, Moses, or David, played crucial roles in the biblical narrative and the unfolding of God's plan. The significance of focusing on these heroes is in recognizing their contributions and understanding their inspirational qualities, which remain relevant today. For instance, consider Deborah, a prophetess and judge who led Israel to victory against the oppressive Canaanite army. Her story is not just one of leadership, but also highlights the power of faith and courage in the face of overwhelming odds. Another example is Bezalel, who, under divine inspiration, designed the Tabernacle and its sacred furnishings. His craftsmanship demonstrates that in the biblical context, everyday skill and artistry are seen as divine gifts. Real-world applications of these stories often manifest in discussions about leadership, resilience, and skill. Deborah's example may inspire modern-day initiatives that focus on empowering women leaders in male-dominated environments. Similarly, Bezalel's story reminds us of the value of creativity and skill in serving a higher purpose, encouraging support for arts and vocational training as valid and honorable paths. Opinions supporting the idea of unearthing these lesser-known figures emphasize the richness they bring to biblical stories, providing a fuller picture of faith and divine intervention. They remind us of the multifaceted nature of heroism, suggesting it can be expressed through leadership, artistry, or simply fulfilling a purpose diligently. However, challenges to this focus can arise due to the patriarchal context of many biblical stories, where traditional interpretations might overshadow the contributions of these figures. Some might argue that the focus should remain on the most influential figures, whose stories are more explicitly tied to key theological narratives. In the broader discussion of the forgotten heroes of the Old Testament, introducing these figures sets the stage for how varied expressions of faith and heroism appear in biblical history. It influences subsequent explorations of these characters by encouraging a nuanced understanding of what it means to be a hero and how these individuals embody diverse paths of faithfulness and service. Understanding their stories encourages an appreciation of the complexity and depth in the human-divine relationship as depicted in the Old Testament. Understanding the term forgotten heroes in the context of the Old Testament involves identifying individuals who played significant yet often overlooked roles in biblical narratives. These figures may not be as well known as characters like Moses, David, or Abraham, but their actions and faith have nonetheless contributed meaningfully to the unfolding of biblical history. Forgotten heroes is a term that encapsulates those lesser-acknowledged individuals whose stories offer valuable lessons and insights into faith, perseverance, and the human condition. The significance of exploring these forgotten heroes lies in broadening our understanding of the Old Testament and revealing the diversity of experiences and contributions that shape its history. By focusing on these overlooked characters, we are encouraged to see the broader tapestry of human narratives that influence key momentous biblical events. This expanded perspective can foster a deeper appreciation for the intricate dynamics of biblical history and how a range of characters, not just the prominent ones, play foundational roles in the spiritual and moral teachings in the text. Two specific examples from the Old Testament are Bezalel and Oholiab, artisans chosen to construct the tabernacle. Their skills and dedication were crucial in creating a sacred space for worship, a centerpiece for the Israelites' spiritual journey, and an embodiment of divine presence on earth. These craftsmen exemplify how individuals outside the usual narrative focus of prophecy or leadership contribute significantly to God's plans. Additionally, consider Jochebed, the mother of Moses, who defied Pharaoh's decree by saving her son. Her courage and faith paved the way for Moses' eventual rise as a leader who would liberate the Israelites. The importance of shining a light on forgotten heroes is supported by scholars who argue that they embody vital virtues of faith and resilience. However, challenges to this perspective do exist. Some may argue that focusing on lesser-known characters could detract from the primary messages intended by more central figures. Alternatively, Others might believe that these characters are side notes to the grander narratives led by God or major prophets and kings. Exploring forgotten heroes can influence how other aspects of the Old Testament are perceived. By acknowledging these characters, we understand that God's work often involves many people whose contributions might not be celebrated, but are nonetheless vital. This approach reminds us that heroism and faithfulness aren't confined to the limelight, but thrive in acts of quiet dedication, influencing collective destinies. Thus, forgotten heroes add depth to biblical studies, encouraging readers to find personal connections and inspiration in the entire breadth of biblical stories. Notable biblical figures, often overlooked, refers to the individuals in the Old Testament who played significant roles in the biblical narrative, but are not as commonly remembered or celebrated as the major figures like Moses, David, or Abraham. These forgotten heroes, though lesser known, contributed to shaping the history and theology of their time and offered deep insights into the character and messages within the biblical text. The importance of recognizing these figures lies in the broader understanding of biblical history and theology they provide. By examining these less celebrated individuals, we gain a deeper appreciation for the diversity of experiences and contributions in the biblical narrative. These figures often exemplify virtues such as courage, faith, and perseverance, serving as powerful reminders of the multifaceted nature of spirituality and human experience. Consider Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, for instance. Jethro's wisdom in advising Moses to delegate his duties is a crucial moment that not only highlights his role as a leader outside of the Israelite tradition, but also underscores the importance of wise counsel and shared leadership. Another example is Hur, who alongside Aaron supported Moses by holding up his arms during Israel's battle against Amalek. Hur's contribution, though brief, underscores the importance of supportive roles in achieving collective success. Opinions vary on the necessity of highlighting these figures, but many argue that their inclusion enriches the study of the Old Testament, offering a more textured understanding of its historical and cultural context. Scholars often emphasize that these narratives reinforce that leadership and heroism are not solely the prerogatives of the prominent, but are shared by a community of faithful individuals. However, challenges arise from the limited textual representation of these figures, which can lead to differing interpretations of their significance. Furthermore, some may argue that focusing on minor characters detracts from the central theological messages found in the major narratives. Yet these viewpoints also drive a deeper discussion about who gets remembered and why, prompting readers to reconsider the narratives they prioritize. This focus on overlooked figures influences other aspects of the main topic by broadening the lens through which we view biblical heroism and leadership. It prompts us to move beyond traditional narratives and explore the richness of the Old Testament, ultimately enhancing our understanding of the broader themes and the tapestry of stories contained within it. The impact of the forgotten heroes of the Old Testament on biblical narratives is profound. These often overlooked figures play pivotal roles in advancing God's plan, shaping the stories and teachings that have been passed down through generations. These heroes, though not always prominent in Sunday school lessons or popular interpretations, contribute significantly to the depth and richness of biblical narratives. They embody faith, courage, and resilience, often confronting enormous challenges without the recognition received by more celebrated figures like Moses or David. The significance of these unsung heroes lies in their vital contributions to the overarching biblical story. By highlighting their roles, we gain a more nuanced understanding of the themes and messages inherent in these ancient texts, thus appreciating the broader narrative context. For instance, Rahab's story demonstrates the theme of redemption and the reach of God's grace. As a Canaanite prostitute, Rahab helped Israelite spies in Jericho, leading her to be included in the lineage of Jesus as recounted in the Gospel of Matthew. Similarly, Ehud, a left-handed judge, creatively liberated Israel from Moabite oppression, showcasing themes of deliverance through unexpected and humble means. These examples illustrate how the forgotten heroes' narratives offer fresh perspectives on faith and obedience. For those exploring biblical texts, these stories affirm that heroism and spiritual significance are not reserved for the well-known but accessible to all, regardless of status. Nevertheless, there are challenges and controversies associated with focusing on these lesser-known figures. Some theologians argue that placing too much emphasis on these characters might detract from the central themes represented by major figures. Additionally, interpretations of these stories can vary significantly, sometimes leading to divergent theological views. Despite these challenges, the inclusion and recognition of the forgotten heroes enhance the overall tapestry of biblical narratives. Their stories intersect and influence the actions of major characters, leading to the fulfillment of divine promises and prophecies. By incorporating these figures into the broader conversation about the Old Testament, we enrich our understanding and appreciation of its complexities. This approach not only enlightens our perspective on Scripture, but also resonates with contemporary audiences, who may find inspiration in the lives of those who, though not in the limelight, played crucial roles in shaping spiritual history.